Okay, so we're starting this week's. This is a retake of the start, by the way, because I forgot to press record.
This is what working with them is like, folks. Out there,
This is season 1, episode 4, Waiting for God. Live commentary from me. I started calling him the Godfather of comedy, of alternative comedy. He is, in fact, the Godfather of comedy now. I mean, because alternative comedy is
a long time ago, right?
Mr. Paul Jackson, and top world-class director, Mr. Ed Barrie, and producer. And we have a very special guest lined up for you today. So put your virtual hands together. I thought there was some kind of clapping things on the bottom of these emoticons, but there aren't. Put your virtual hands together for Sir Christopher de Barrie. Thanks, everybody, for pretending to be surprised.
Everybody's writing us about a wonderful chat line. Excellent. We can put the chat line alongside. Happy Easter all. Happy Easter, Chris.
Happy Easter. And because we're faking it, we're not going to fake all the opening dialogue or Chris's impressions.
To say, and that is that Paul Jackson got an award for something which he now subsequently does throughout the rest of this commentary. Show us the award, Paul. I don't think we recorded it.
It was a present for my retirement from my old friend Guy Freeman, who used to be a cameraman with us. And that, on my leaving party, nobody can understand why he gave me this, but you will now know.
Yeah, go on, Paul. You're really good at it. Go on. Give us a tip.
No, I'm running out. I really am. I mean, and the screen is actually getting marked. I must stop doing this.
Too late, mate. There were cleaners at the BBC who had to do extra time to clean up your bloody
Well, Jackie, you remember, Ed, Jackie did seriously used to bring 2 boxes of...
quite
and it was very stupid behaviour, can I say? And I'm lucky I didn't get arrested by the police and taken away.
Chris, you remember this. Peter Harris used to have fresh freesias and 80 Benson Hedges in his box when he went to direct the Spitting Image. Paul just...
He did. Was there a bottle of champagne involved? I think there might have been.
I think it might have been. I didn't.
But and yet he still managed to lose his temper occasionally. And in fact, we did a show where I kind of did an impersonation of him that I think Paul or Ed or both might have been involved in. Filthy Rich and Cat.
Yeah, we were both involved. Yes, you did an impersonation of me, Chris, breaking the pencils, didn't you?
It was a hybrid of you and Peter Harris. It's given away by the word darling, and a slightly West Country kind of accent. He may not have come to the West Country, but I gave him one anyway. So then, darling. They're completely mad, yeah.
I remember the script conferences before shooting. He just used to gleefully rip out pages that represent hours and hours of work from us and throw them on the floor.
That's right. John Lloyd used to try and sort of talk him through the interview. I should do this. And Peter Harris would look at him and sort of just grab the page and say, "We're not doing it, darling."
A bit like that woman behind Donald Trump tearing up the State of the Union. That was what...
Okay, so we...
about the broken pencils. I promise I'll get them to Dimension Jump early next year. I think it's been reset the date, hasn't it? You're welcome to them. I'll get them to you next year.
Okay, we are about to run Waiting for God. Ready to hit your button. We're just going to cover the first 5 minutes or so of commentary. I can't remember when I started.
Oh, I didn't know.
There's not much. Everybody lined up?
Yep.
Okay, maybe yours will play this time. Here we go. 3, 2, 1, play.
Now, Rob.
Scary moment. Oh, it's running. Thank God.
I'm running. Are you running again now, Chris?
Yeah. And of course, you know, whenever I heard this music, it always sort of gives me a little, the old chill runs down the spine, really, and think, I cannot remember a single line in this show. I'm waiting in the back corridor there to come into the sleeping quarters. I'm thinking, what? How does this start? What? We did Italians on the bus on the way up. How does this start?
One of the things, I don't know if I say this in the commentary that's covered, but is that essentially this is pretty much a two-hander between you and Craig. I mean, the cat comes in, does his comic relief, and Holly's chipping in, but basically it's porridge in space. It's the two of you.
Alan has been asking since the beginning, why are you so happy? What's this little skip at the beginning, Chris?
Oh, yes.
Oh, the little skip at the beginning. That's Rimmer absolutely on top of the world. Everything's going well. He will become an officer one day.
And he's just remembered he can check out Lister's report.
Yes, exactly.
That's why he's happy, right?
Newfound power, you know.
Chris, you were saying that you used to listen behind the set to see what kind of laughs Holly got on this opening sequence, yeah?
Well, that first sequence with Holly, yes. If his gag at the end of it got a decent laugh, you knew, you know, the audience. You know, you do try and measure an audience that way. If in the early scenes they're laughing well, you're thinking, well, that bodes well for the rest of the recording, you know.
I know what you mean about worrying about the opening lines. Same thing, really.
Oh, yeah, the skip.
You'd stand there, sit there in the gallery and go, okay, we're coming off titles. We're coming to shot 1 on 4, then shot 2 on something else.
Guys, it is so much worse for poor old me standing behind the audience, pacing up and down, saying everybody's lines under my breath and just helpless. Because
you are the man, Rob. Let's remind everybody who didn't hear it. You are the man who actually wrote the entire 169 name crew list. You have to have it.
Yeah, I did.
You know that, Chris?
I don't know why I did that.
You wrote the entire register of the 169 crew names.
Yeah.
So that he had it in case it ever came up as an issue.
Now that is thoroughness.
That is anal. That is anal.
Thoroughness is one word.
Anal is another. But that's what Rimsey would do. See, there's a bit of all the characters in Rob, you know?
Recording now. I hope to God Ian was recording.
Is VT running, please?
Good job, Paul. You got that stack of pencils there, buddy.
Honestly, working with these, I remember now what it was like, Chris.
Well, we remember your Italian runs, Paul. I mean, we still talk about those.
Oh, the Italian runs. You still do those, Chris?
The stiver still goes down the back. No, we don't do them. God, no, we don't do them.
Explain what an Italian run is, Chris.
Italian run is basically you sit around a table and you run the lines of the scene and indeed the whole show as quickly as you can. Hence Italian, so, you know, on average they speak very quickly. You know, it sounds and you do the whole show like that just to know that the lines are locked in the margin.
And if you get it wrong, you have to go back to the beginning.
Get them wrong, back to the beginning. So we rarely got out of that rehearsal room.
You knew the line.
Oh, I remember those.
Trolling.
Yeah.
We're trolling, listening for the fluff.
So you've never done those since? I thought that was a standard modus operandi.
No, one of the torture
We're
methods.
getting Molly McDade asking Chris, what was your favourite outfit? The beige one or the green one?
Hey, favourite outfits? I did quite like the original beige fatigues because they were just sort of comfortable things, and they, you know, with great respect to Howard Burden, you know, the chance that pins weren't stuck in, you know. So yeah, no, I love the early one, you know.
My favourite is the officer's uniform you used to die in. That was
the white
me squared, yeah.
Number ones, yeah. Oh yeah, I love that as well.
Okay, we're getting some questions in the Q&A panel.
About this book, if he's eating, surely he's spoiling the smell of the book because he's fouling it with food. My feeling is that it depends what you're eating, and it just changes the nationality of it. So if he's eating, you know, curry, then it probably has an Indian accent.
Chris, they're asking where the salute came from. Was that your invention, or did the writers give it to you?
The salute is one of those things, a bit like Crichton's accent, where we said Rimmer needs a special salute. He wouldn't just do a conventional kind of one of those, you know, military salute or something like that. He would have a special salute because he thinks he's going to get more brownie points for being special. So we spent, I don't know, almost a week sort of with Rob sort of like, yeah, Rimsey would have a special salute. Yeah, what would and Doug said, yeah, no, he needs something special, something Rimmer, you know. So we just sort of went and did all sorts of things, you know, sort of all that kind of carry on, you know, and then eventually we settled on the up 5 circles and then longest way and then shortest way down, basically. And you can do a quick one with 3. And
that's in emergencies, isn't it? Yeah, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. And then we did the very long one in, I think it was series 6, that sort of we did all this stuff going down, back up again. And so, yeah, the salute has been great fun, you know, over the years.
And we'll do it for the NHS again at the end of the show tonight.
Now, this scene, Chris was saying before, and I completely agree with him, I think there's a lot of good lines in here that go for pretty much nothing with the audience. And this is just for people who accuse us of using dub laughter. We didn't dub it. We didn't dub it even though we thought it was funny. We let it ride. And in a way, I think when you get the jokes at home and they're not laughing there, you feel, you know, like you've got a better sense of humor.
I mean, this was, you know, remember, no one would have ever seen Red Dwarf before. They would have come in, you know, episode 4, 4th week, you know, it would be a cold audience who are thinking, probably like me some of the time, you know, how is this going to go? You know, what is so different from any other TV show, you
know? Somebody wants to know what the smell for dick is in the cat language. I say it's pretty close to the smell for Trump, actually. Very easy to get those two mixed up.
Underpants on coat hangers. Yeah, you see, that would have got a very big...
Yeah.
Classic.
You notice that as performing, Chris, nowadays when you perform to a pretty committed audience, you tend to get a lot more of those little laughs that you're missing on this first series.
Yeah, I think we do. That any little character laughs, you can hear the audience getting it almost as you're saying the line. So they're on to everything. And just occasionally, you know, part of me is sometimes thinking, you know, there's so many laughs in here, we're not going to be able to get to the end of the sentence. And overall, it could sort of not be good for the piece, you know, to have that. Not that I would ever not want an audience, but you see what I mean? There's so much they're laughing at. But
it's funny, though, Chris, you talk about the character gags, and it's one of the things I firmly believe that sitcom is a unique art form that only exists in television. You know, television by and large copies journalism or drama or documentary or whatever. These things have been done in different media, but the sitcom, because you become so familiar with the characters that they're like your house. You know, Jack D once said to me a long time ago, you never laugh like you laugh in school. It's the same, you never laugh like you laugh with your family. You know, that mad uncle, and you just wait for him to come in and do the silly salute or the wink. And it cripples everybody. It's such a personal thing. And I think one of the unique things about television sitcom is it builds up over 6 and 12 and 18. So you don't actually have to do gags. You just give a look or a sign and people laugh because you're Rimmer and they know that that's what you do.
The cat's leap in the top of this scene, Ed, which we've missed. Did he do it live?
2 shots. So one was he flew out of the hole where the grate was and landed on a mattress. And then the second half was off a trampoline and we cut the 2 shots together.
Chris, I was going to ask, and other people are asking too.
Sorry, we have a technical hitch my end with the DVD, but any points you want to know what happens in it, just let me know.
Have you lost your DVD coverage?
Yes, Danny John Jules is on screen at the moment, so he's very still, much stiller than I ever remembered. He
was never still. Well, he's doing the yo-yo business with you.
Yes,
the yo-yo.
And
give us another question, Rob.
Obviously, you had to protect your character by making sure nobody ever could touch you. And did you were you very conscious of that more than the others? That
was difficult because obviously, you know, when you're playing a role, not that I was vastly experienced as an actor at the time, but, you know, it's something that an actor would always like to sort of maybe touch things and sort of, you know, sort of props and all this sort of thing. But of course, Rimmer couldn't have any because everyone would leap on it and say, well, your hands would go through it, you know, like going through a table and you know, when Listy sort of goes through me sort of thing. Because I'm a sort of a composition of light, you know, so there'll be nothing physical there. So it was a little bit difficult to start with, you know, in rehearsal that, we wouldn't be able to touch that. Yeah, that was a bit tricky.
Yeah, something you had to all the time.
You very skillfully avoided a lot of the other actors. I mean, for instance, in that scene we just saw with Danny and the yo-yo.
It's a narrow corridor, isn't it?
Close, but you avoid him. It's a skill. I never remember ever saying to you, or you touched something, or you bumped into somebody, or anything like that. You were very good at it.
Yeah, no, I don't know. It's just, I think some of the others might have sort of said, hey, you wouldn't touch that, you know, so.
We've got, whose idea was it to put the cat in a grey suit against the grey background? And you know the problems we have with the greyness here, but somebody asked the compliment.
Some of these sound like real lockdown questions, don't they?
Yeah.
Lockdown for 2.5 weeks, and well, that's a bit difficult.
It does seem crazy. But somebody asked about the lighting, and we didn't really talk about that. That was John Pomfrey, and he wasn't used to lighting dramas or comedies or things like that. It was game shows and that kind of thing, local magazine shows. And he really leapt to the challenge. And it's a really unusual lighting plan, but it works well against the...
you had even that thing of 2001, and what was the other space movie, Rob, you know, with the big, old, grotty old tank? I mean, that's what you wanted, wasn't it? A big, grotty mining ship.
Yeah, dirty old working class. Yeah.
Dark Star, do you mean?
Dark Star.
Yeah, Dark Star, Alien. Yeah.
Ed said, yeah.
People are asking about, you know, the first season. Were we on a much lower budget, and were we upset about the quality of the lighting and the set? And I don't think we were. I think we thought it was brilliant for what, you know, for a sitcom. It was brilliant.
I do remember the first time I went into the studio and saw the set, the pre-record day, and I was just, it's like your dream. There was a spaceship that I thought up for me to play with, and it was there. So I didn't really much care about the quality.
You know, I love that thing. I tell the stories from the young ones. In the second series of the young ones, we had one simple joke, which was Neil sitting in the window and the dawn coming up and the sun breaks in half. And he says, "Morning has broken," and walks off. I mean, that is the joke. It's not even the greatest joke, and it's one.
Stop.
We got a whole crew, a whole unit on a golf course outside Bristol to just do the shot of Neil in the window frame, and then we graphicked in the thing afterwards. I remember standing there on this golf course about 5 o'clock in the morning, waiting for the sun to come up, and they'd worked it out it would come through this frame, saying to Rick, you know, when you just sit there and write that one line, and then here you stand up and see 50 people standing in a field at 5 o'clock in the morning. It must be a funny feeling, Rob.
It is. I remember getting into the lift at the Broadcasting House in Manchester, and there were a couple of crew members just, you know, in the uniform, and I got in the lift with them, and I thought, I made you up. Oh, do you remember when Craig did that with the mouth down the down the glass?
It's left behind, which I always found slightly disturbing.
Oh, Chris.
How much?
Yes, that was no wonder I got angry. I mean, that, do you know, I watched that, the angriness, and I think if I did that today, I would at least need a rather serious lie down afterwards. Or worse. Do you know what I mean? I could not get that angry in those days. Paul was angry.
I asked Ed about it before, and he said that he feels responsible because he whipped you up. But he didn't tell you to sort of curve it up. You just get along straight.
I know, it shocked me when I saw that again, you know.
Yeah, did it? I jumped back. I thought it's very powerful, though.
It is a very powerful performance. How much do you, as writers, you write these 6 episodes, knowing who the cast are going to be. When you come to the next 6 and every subsequent one after, you've got these images in your mind now. How much does that inform the way you write?
Oh, it's definitely different. You kind of realize very quickly that there's not much point in writing things the actor can't do, and you really want to play to the strengths. I mean, in Red Dwarf, famously, and I'm not going to name names, Chris, but most of the cast can't say the word phenomenon. They say phenomenon. And so you learn not to use. Yeah, you learn not to use that word.
Phenomenon.
Oh, you did good there. You did good.
What you mean in 1988? I couldn't say it, no?
I don't know if it was you. I'm not naming names.
Good question, Rob. Who came up with the name Quagar?
That was just
that was just in the writing, yeah?
Yeah, as far as I remember.
The answer to that will be Robert and Douglas.
And Modo, Rob, people have been asking about Modo since last week. Was that just another one out of the top of your
head?
That
was just Quasimodo with the Quasi. Oh.
I seem to think we actually spent a long time working out how to pronounce Quagar.
Yes, you have that.
Quagar.
Your solution was brilliant. I've named them the Quiggas.
Yeah, I love this. They laughed at Columbo.
How many A's that?
The guy with the dirty Mac who discovered America gets nothing. Gets nothing. But this is quite interesting because this is now it's a little bit metaphysical. I mean, it's not going to give Bertrand Russell any lack of sleep, but we are exploring the whole nature of being dead and the nature of believing in things. And so that's quite ambitious, really. And again, stupid for a first series.
For a first series sitcom, yeah. It's actually, there's quite a passage in Promised Land, Chris, on that exact subject, isn't it? Are you dead or are you alive, really, and free will and so on, which I think has always been an important strand in Red Dwarf. It's always had this fairly high-level philosophical questioning behind it. You know.
Yes.
Well, I think that's largely down to Chris's character, really, because when you've got basically, you know, the cat's not really joining in at the moment. He's not really integrated at this stage in the proceedings, and you've got Holly chipping in, but it's fundamentally a two-hander.
Yeah.
And you know, with your being dead, that throws up all kinds of metaphysical.
Well, it cues, you know, every now and then, and there've been a few of them. Obviously, Promised Land has got quite a scene, you know, but there's that philosophical kind of lot of pathos in there. And they're always great scenes to do. I mean, Craig is, I think, excellent at doing that sort of serious stuff, and it's really, you know, an interesting avenue to consider of Rimmer's character. You know, just to take the foot off the gas a bit, gag-wise, and just do it. You know.
Yeah.
Molly, who often asks, Molly McDade, often asks really interesting questions. Hi, Molly. For such a smeghead, Rimmer is weirdly reliable, and you can't help but feel for him at some points. And I think that's true. I mean, at the heart of Rimmer is a guy who's trying to be something he's not. And if he stopped doing that and tried to be what he was, he'd probably be pretty good at it.
Oh, he's reliable at trying to one day become an officer.
Yeah, because
he'll never stop wanting to be an officer, that's for sure.
This is my favourite breakfast ordering scene ever.
I just want to pick up, MJ Folds has said, the lady in the audience going, when Rimmer says, I wonder what it'd be like to have a woman. And you left it in there. It was really actually the little sympathetic.
Yeah, actually, somebody last week, I think, and I didn't pick up on it, I think it might have been Molly again, said she'd always thought of Rimmer as being asexual, but not aware of it. And that really hit home with me. I thought, yeah, that's what I thought. And again, he wants to be the macho man who bags loads of women, but it's just not him. It's just,
of course, big man, Duke,
Yeah.
He is ace. Chris, we were looking last week at the Claire Grogan scene where you get your body back and you look down a shirt and say, "Oh, I've seen something you've never seen" in
Body Swap.
Power. And then you get left with her boob. And I think that's the only time I can remember you having any actual sexual activity as Rimmer.
Well, Magruder.
Yvonne Magruder, of course, is my one and only time. That's got, she got hit over the head with a winch or something like that. Yeah. And then there is in Hollow Ship, I think, later on.
Oh, yes, there is.
Right, okay. Yeah.
Hollow Ship, I think.
Ivana Crane.
Yeah. So yeah, a few sort of, whatever Rimmer calls that activity. You know what I mean? We don't really know.
This sequence here with the sort of, this was a really difficult one to put on the screen, really. We needed to cover a lot of backstory history without actually showing any of it. And do you remember the graphics people who did those sacred texts?
Very good.
Yeah.
Was that just done from the graphics department, Ed? Because they're very good.
Yeah, it was magical. They're great. And that, somebody asked the question, is that a real stained glass window? It's not, unless it appears downstairs. We haven't had a look. Wait till we get there.
But that is a transparent paper, isn't it, with painted on and a light behind it, yeah?
Yeah.
Are we, I'm suffering technical problems here. Are we up with the scutters yet?
We are with the scutters.
It's just with the scutters. This is the angry scene.
Well, the Scutters who are trying to upstage us from the word go, I think, you know.
Definitely blocking Craig's shot quite nicely.
Obviously, Peter Ragg was so thrilled the Scutters were kind of working. They could do one thing, which was sort of do that a lot. Because they had two positions usually. One was standing still doing nothing with Raggy looking quizzically at the control console, or Raggy looking at the Scutter, but it making a sort of noise and steam slowly coming from it. They're more reliable these
He did
days.
get the finger right in the end, didn't he, Chris?
Sorry?
He did get the finger right in the end, didn't he?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
No,
they did that,
they
yeah.
did that beautifully, yeah. That was their one big thing, you know?
And you've got to remember, he had a year to work on this bloody because he was supposed to have made them for the non-recorded series.
There was one time when a Scutter actually attacked your leg. I do remember. Savage.
Yes, that was it Confidence and Paranoia?
And I remember, I thought, damn, we can't keep that because it can't touch him.
Was it the one in Confidence and Paranoia where I go, stab him, stab him, stab him, stab him? To Lee Corns, who's playing Paranoia, and the Scutter stabs me. I can't remember. I'll be but I go, you haven't met my friend, stab him, have you? It's better when you see it.
What my mother thinks is me, part of me is that. This is you shouting away now, Chris. This is the big.
This is where he loses it, yeah?
Yes, you've absolutely lost.
Man,
I believe the Quagars have the technology to give me a new body.
I think one of the reasons we did this, Chris, is because the dialogue, in fairness, this top business, and your last line in this scene is bastard.
Yes.
Wrong for us. So I think in rehearsal we probably thought, yeah, let's bring it out a bit.
When I watched this earlier, when I said bastard, I actually did. I can't remember doing it in that show.
Right.
really?
It was probably a genuine reaction, Chris. It wasn't a learned line.
Yeah.
Yes.
So here we're going now, guys, into the hold, into the cargo hold, which we never know, well, we do go into for other reasons, but we're going into the cat universe now. And a couple of questions saying, you know, it's now been 32 years before we've gone back there. Were there ever plans, Rob, or did you, I think you had a particular concern about getting too deep into the cat people and the mythology.
Yeah, like I say, I thought it took away. I didn't see how it could be a story about our characters, and that's what became important to me. But that's not to say, and also, you know, on telly, it's pretty expensive recreating a cat universe, isn't it?
We couldn't have done anything like Promised Land in those days.
Oh.
If any of you are familiar with the new movie Cats, they should have come to us. I mean, that's what.
Well, we did ask Judi Dench, I think. Didn't you ask Judi Dench to play the...
Yeah, we did.
Rumor.
So people are asking about Noel Coleman and how we cast him. Over to Ed, really.
Noel Coleman was well, Rupert Bates was a regular in the show, and Noel Coleman was his, well, watch this stunt. That's good. And Noel Coleman was his stepdad. There you go. So Craig falling out onto the floor there was quite good. That looked painful, I have to say.
Yeah.
Craig loved doing painful stunts.
Yeah.
He does it all himself. He just loved it, you know, perfect for it.
I love this, in these first few episodes culminating in this parody of biblical history. I just love it. I mean, it's just enough. There's not too much of it. But, you know, forgive me, I'm not a religious person, but, you know, the wearing of the donut and the wearing of the funny hats and so on. I mean, it's got about as much justification as the real.
Now, here, this sequence, when he comes in, a big question about where he gets the dry ice from. And I think what you guys don't realise is it's an airlock thing. And when the frozen air hits the regular air, it instantly ices up and causes a fog. That's what it is.
Yeah, probably.
It wasn't Ed. Just wanted to make it good.
Just what happened. Yes, the donut and the scepter and the sausage and so on. It's
a pretty good performance from Mr. Coleman. He was in a Doctor Who, wasn't he? A Patrick Troughton Doctor Who, I think. I'm looking at the.
He did quite a lot during the 70s, didn't he?
He was a very experienced stage actor as well.
Oh, yes, he's a very well-known stage actor. Yeah. Why did the Scutters disappear later, Ed? Were they just too much trouble in the end?
Yeah, they were just too much trouble, and Chris was constantly complaining they were attacking him.
Well, he can't complain.
Is it true that David Lynch was interested in adapting Red Dwarf at some point? Yes, actually, I've forgotten about that. He was linked with it at one point. That would have been a strange marriage.
I'd love to have seen the David Lynch vision of Red Dwarf.
Oh God! Oh yeah, we all want a scutter, Mr. Eaton.
Well, I've told you the horrible story. I did have not a moving one, but a solid one that Peter Wright gave me, and I lost it.
I've got some baby scutters that I was given, I think, at the end of little sort of the paperweight style ones. You know,
I haven't got a spare one, Chris, because I lost mine on the move, and I'm so angry.
I think they're quite high value these days.
Well, I think they might be, but I was thinking maybe you'd see your way clear. When we have lunch,
you gave me my chance on television all those years ago. I owe you something, don't I?
When we have lunch, the four of us, when this bloody nonsense is over, you might just slip it under the table to me, Chris.
Chris, sell it to him. Hang on. Oh, he's died.
He's died. He's copped it.
I'm happy though, knowing that his religion was my investigating feat.
and again, that line of Danny's about, his dad. My dad was an idiot. That's why he ate his own feet. I love that line.
Yeah.
Didn't get anything.
Nothing, yeah.
Didn't get anything.
But that whole last sequence was, I mean, for any audience, sitcom audience, it's like, to them, it's so fresh and so new and so different that, people wheeled in up at Oxford Road Studios in Manchester, going to wonder what the hell you're just having their shopping, in the city centre, going to not know what the hell's going on,
Yeah.
Sitcom at all. We didn't used to play in the. Did we used to play in the pilot episode, Ed, to give them some idea of where we were?
Yeah, sometimes we did. We do catch them. But there's
we played in the first episode, so they got some sense of what it was.
Roast chicken, come on! Based because that Mr. Alien based a lot of his Alien on a chicken. I thought chicken it's got to be.
Oh, this is the titles where it stops and Chris
does a voiceover.
It's us making garbage.
Oh yeah, right at the end. Yeah.
Is it true Channel 4 wanted to make Red Dwarf into a TV film, but you guys wanted to make it? Yeah, well, not a TV film. They wanted to do it as a movie. But we held out stupidly.
Did it a movie, I think, the moment.
No, because it was designed to be a TV series. It wasn't designed to be a one-off thing.
And I think it is difficult getting. I mean, the half hour. Everybody thinks you can just extend to 90 minutes, 2 hours, and I don't think it's that easy. It's a totally different thing, basically.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's that easy. Yeah, that stuttering on the. We finished now, Chris. Just so you know.
Yep.
Stuttering on the captions with the voiceover again. John Lloyd had started to mess about with end titles and opening titles on Not the Nine, but again, that was something new at the time. You ran the credits. You just ran the credits, and.
All right then, guys. Well, that's finished. Shall we just run it from the top again, just in case Ian didn't record that first bit? We only need to do about 5 minutes.
Will we ever do it the same again? Ian, did you record the first bit? We weren't recording, Rob, sorry. Am I working with total...
Got to run out of pencils here, folks.
I got a box specially for the occasion, so...
Well, you've got a special armoured laptop.
Well, actually, okay. Judy could be very pissed off with me if this screen is covered in potholes.
I run VT!
I don't know how you can recreate the mystery and magic that was the opening 5 minutes. Rob, how do you want to do that?
I don't know. What do we do?
The only director who ever eclipsed Paul's anger was a fellow called Peter Harris, who directed Spitting Image.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah.
And he, oh boy, he used to go crazy. In a slightly different style to you, Paul, but equally powerful.
I'm trying to remember. There is a famous story about a BBC director who was known for shouting a bit and getting a bit cross. And let me get this right, there was a big orchestra in the studio and he came down and something went wrong. He came down the gallery steps and screamed at the orchestra and what the hell, we get there, we'll get away. As he went back up the stairs, a little quiet voice from the orchestra said, "That guy's a cunt." And he turned around and said, "Who called the producer a cunt?" And another little voice said, "Who called a cunt a producer?" Sorry, it's not a word I normally use, but that is the story. And apparently a true one.
Yeah, Rick always used to say, "What? We love cunts. We love them. They're not an insult."
Well, Rick, a lot of people asking about who would you like to have worked with on Red Dwarf. Rick did guest spots on almost everything at the time, but I don't think there was ever a Red Dwarf character suited for him, Rob, was there really?
Well, no. I mean, and again, we wanted our guest artists not to eclipse our cast. We didn't want them to be, peers. We wanted to...
On the story.
Yeah.
We had some wonder. We were talking, Chris, about the number of great actors that we had. Seeing you around the table with Paul Bradley and Mark Williams and so on, when these guys were completely unknown,
Yes, oh no. Nicholas Ball, of course, played the simulant back in some of the early 90s ones, I think it was. Some great people, great fun. And of course, when they come on the Red Dwarf set, they've all been sort of strangely, my God, they've sort of been disarmed, I think. We've been expecting the big star to come, but they've been really...
They came into your world, really. I love Molly McDade. I think eclipsing was a contractual obligation of Rick playing guest parts.
Yes, yeah.
Craig Ferguson turned up and we launched his career for him. Did he thank us? No.
No, never.
Not at all, no.
Ended up doing the Letterman show and never wrote us a card.
Fascist.
Are you trying to do something again, or are we done for this section?
Well, what I'm worried about is that this commentary is only going to start like 5 minutes into the show, unless we record from the top.
Well, go on then. Were you going to lose Chris again?
Oh, well.
Right.
Just for the,
Hang on.
Just for completeness, so that if people want to watch these commentaries while they're watching it.
Where did you get the idea for a hydrogen scoop?
From science. We read a lot about these kind of things and quantum physics. I did it so you don't have to. And that we wanted, space. Hydrogen's abundant and it's a great source of energy, and that seemed to me to be a great way of having a ship that would go on for 3 million years. That's what we needed to do. Is the Red Dwarf a hybrid? Probably. There's some nuclear in there somewhere, I think.
That's something, of course, that we address in The Promised Land.
So Joe is suggesting finishing the Q&A and chit-chat, then going back to the start. Joe, do you mean the Q&A about Promised Land?
No, there's Q&A now.
This Q&A.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, well, let's just finish this Q&A and go back to the start. We'll get Chris out of the room and we'll just, we're faking it.
Rob, what's the life of Brian? Any sort of influence on the religious parody element of this?
Not specifically. I suppose it's being around made it okay
to do
religious parodies. The thing about doing religion is it's one of those things that gets people's back up if they don't, like it, like insulting the royal family and hurting animals are the worst ones. But religion's another bad one. So
again, guys, for you comedy historians out there, and I'm pretty sure it's available on YouTube, as far as I remember it, the first ever great ripping apart of religion in a comedic sense was David Frost. You guys remember on That Was the Week That Was? He did a whole long routine on That Was the Week That Was in the mid-60s called The Witch Consumer Guide to Religions.
Oh, no.
Oh, it's a brilliant piece of writing, and David just doing it with a clipboard and going through, well, there's a divine deity, but there's eternal happiness, there's forgiveness, but there is repentance. And it caused an absolute storm at the time. And I think, that was the same time as Beyond the Fringe and Alan Bennett's Vicar in Beyond the Fringe. And suddenly something that had been absolutely sacrosanct, I mean, there was no way, that you'd get it on television or on a stage or anything. Suddenly it started to happen.
And
So look it up, guys. I think you'll find it. Consumer Guide to Religions.
Okay, so what we'll do is we'll wrap this up now with our customary. It's our silly salute, but it's from the heart. We mean it to all the frontline staff in the NHS and the support staff, the people we don't pay any money to when it's peacetime, but we realise we need more than anything right now, who are putting their health and safety on the line to help strangers like us. So we'll take the lead from Mr. Rimmer himself, the full double rimmer, and you better do it sharply, guys.
Well, Pinkle Squirmy Blib Blab Blob, here's to the NHS. Double salute.
Wow, a quadruple rimmer.
Rob, are you doing tips for this shutdown, Rob?
Yeah, I tend to do a serious one and then Ed does a stupid one. But my tip is, I heard a Roman Catholic cardinal, and we're doing religion here. That is not the God I don't believe in, but he is a very wise and sage man, and I'm sure lots of you are starting to feel the pinch now. We're nearly 3 weeks in, and if it's just a couple of you in the house, or however many, you might start to grate on each other's nerves a little bit. And he said you should consider yourself a gift to the other people in your household, and that'll help you. Just be a little bit kinder, just be a little bit more tolerant, and perhaps reduce these domestic violence figures.
Very good. Can I give you some advice? My tip for this week is that it's about face masks, wearing a face mask. I heard that a lot of people are making face masks home, homemade face masks, which is great. But one tip is, if you're going to make a face mask out of an old bra, always use the left cup, otherwise you'll look like a right tit.
That's an erotic joke. I'm actually...
An erotic joke. I've got two quick ones, guys. The Guardian this week did the top 50 Dylan tracks of all time, which of any other artist, you can imagine how much argument that will cause. So if you're a big fan and you haven't seen it, go to it. It'll remind you of just what an extraordinary talent he is. And if you're not so familiar with the work, just randomly dip into, half a dozen of the tracks from, in my opinion, probably the greatest songbook of the last 100 years. It really is extraordinary to remember the 50 best songs he wrote, never mind the other 300.
50
And
best, jeez.
Go on, you don't like him, Rob?
No, I'm saying 50.
50, the top 50, I know. How can you even pick 50? But the other thing is, guys, as you're watching the telly and you get told for the 3,000th time what the 4 rules of isolation are, get yourself a box of pencils.
I've got some tips, of course. You've got to try and get some exercise. You've got to try and build in a variety of things to do in isolation if you can. But of course, if all else does fail, there's always my old way of doing it. And there are other model manufacturers available. But I'll be starting this Churchill bridge layer very soon. I'm waiting for Starbug to appear in Airfix.
That looks pretty sexy, to be honest.
So
maybe
guys,
I'm just deprived.
Chris and I are going to stay on for 10 minutes. Very kindly. Thank you so much, Chris. See you later, guys. Rob and Ed. Chris, why don't you use social media? Nothing to do with the Promised Land, but just a question.
Why don't I do it? Because I cannot find, I'm very untechy, a bit of a Luddite. I cannot really find the time to answer emails, let alone social media. And I've seen people on social media, like the kids, are completely on it all the time. And I just don't think I've got the time to do that. I want to do other things, old-fashioned things like get out in the fresh air, walk and ride motorcycles and stuff like that.
There's a question here, Chris, about, as we mentioned earlier, there are some quite serious sort of philosophical conversations in Promised Land, particularly between you and Lister. Do you enjoy that element, playing that element, as much as you enjoy playing the comedy?
Yes, I do. I think it provides, those scenes do provide a nice sort of contrast to the full steam ahead comedy. And you know, Craig and I have done loads of scenes like that, you know, over the 32 years of Red Dwarf, and yeah, they are nice, and he's great to play them with, you know. So I think he's brilliant at playing them, actually, and I get a lot from him. We take it right down and do it, you know, much in a different way, really, to the comedy scene. So I do enjoy them, yeah, and I think you know. The moonlight scene in the Promised Land, as a lot of people have spoken about and said, you know, it stands out as being a really nice contrast, you know. So yeah, I love them.
And I think in the 90-minute or 2-hour version, you had more room to breathe to do that kind of thing at length, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. Which sometimes, yes, in the shorter format, the half hours, you can't really do that with. But no, good fun.
Ben is saying that he loved Promised Land. Would you prefer to do more of those extended specials, Chris, rather than going back to the half hours?
Oh, that's a difficult question, I'm afraid. I watched The Promised Land, and like a lot of people, and it's something we can't help, I thought there were too many ad breaks, you know, it does break it up a lot. Plus, you know, when you're doing a long story like that, and you've got some of the comedy, the banter, which is when Red Dwarf is at its best, I sometimes think to myself, well, actually, wouldn't we be better doing the half hours where you've got mainly banter and a shorter story, you know, and you can just get it all done in half an hour or 40 minutes, you know? So, but my jury's out on that. I do like doing the long pieces, the big story, but I also like doing the half hours.
How do they technically go together, Chris? Because clearly a lot of it's shot on single camera on location or on dry sets, but clearly there's an audience there laughing along. How did you actually technically do it? And how does that feel for you to have to work in those two very different media on one show?
No, the Iron Star, the cat ship, that was a separate set, separate stage in Pinewood. And we did that very filmically, as you say, single camera or two camera sometimes. And did it with a real atmos. But of course, as usual, we knew the audience were going to watch it, and everything was played into the audience. So you know, we knew that the audience was seeing it and playing it for laughs as well. So we had to keep playing it for laughs. But we knew also the set piece banter, I call them, cockpit of Starbug and sleeping quarters stuff that, or you know, cargo bay stuff that would be played for out and out comedy. But yeah, there wasn't that much difference in playing most of it in that respect, because we knew the audience would see it all the time. But yeah, it's the big trouble I had was sometimes, you know, remembering as you're doing a long piece, you know, knowing where you're at in the script, which bit's this, which bit's that.
Yeah. A lot of comments saying, by the way, that when we get the full Blu-ray with no ads, they'll be able to enjoy this even more without any interruptions and in full high standard Blu-ray definition. So I'm sure that's true. Also, we hear on the grapevine it may be coming out earlier than we thought. It may be coming out really quite soon, I think.
Oh, good.
Which do you prefer, Chris, Ace Rimmer or Mighty Light?
Well, I love doing Mighty Light. It was I loved that sequence where I had to sort of go through all the different costumes, the different eras of Rimmer, and at the end, you know, having incredible, you know, how do you feel, Mr. Rimmer, sir? Incredible. All that stuff was great. But yes, it would have been nice to do more of a sort of Superman thing, particularly as the years go by. But of course, it became my Light B, which eventually sort of did the gig. But doing Ace, I will always look back and say Ace was, you know, one of my favourite sequences, particularly in Series 4 Dimension Jump, that episode when he first appeared. And all the other guy, you know, Lister was saying, "What a guy!" Or they were all saying, "What a guy!" You know, that was a great episode to do. And I'll always, you know, he's always been my favourite sort of offshoot of Rimmer.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just looking down. I'm getting mainly questions on the chat feed, not on the Q&A, but that's fine. It was also fun, Chris, to see you in black and white on the power down mode, to see you really, I suppose, in a way, like a hologram really would be, rather than this very real, super all-powered colour thing. Did you play that any differently, or was that all just done in effects?
Well, I think, yes, the powered down version, I think initially getting into it, you start playing it down as if you are sort of losing your batteries, you know.
Right.
But strangely enough, I didn't know that my voice was going to be treated until I saw it the other night, you know. I think that kind of stands to reason, you know. If he's powered down, he would be sort of like that. But when I first saw it in black and white, I mean, the technology, I mean, the backroom boys, you know, the graphics, the visual effects boys have done fantastic work. And as the technology has come through from something like Waiting for God in Series 1, 32 years on, I mean, they can do so much, you know. I remember was it Series 11, Officer Rimmer, you know, in that club bar in Pinewood, you know, with 16 Rimmers in one room. I thought, how are they doing this? You know, I was blown away, you know, so... Great fun to use the technology in the show.
What was it like having Norman back, Chris? Was that a bit of fun?
Well, you know Norman, Paul.
Lights up a room.
Yeah, he was his usual self. He is even, and I mean this I'm a fan of Norman, for goodness sake. I went on tour with him once, you know. He's wonderfully cantankerous and wonderfully laid back and cynical. And dry as can be. But yes, it's what the fans think of him. And, you know, once he hit that screen, as you heard, they just go mad for him. And I think, if anything, it would have been nice to see him maybe in a scene between the two he had. You know, he had one at the beginning when he first introduced, and he had one long one at the end there, which he was brilliant in. And, you know, I hear some people sort of saying, you know, it'd be nice to have seen more of him. You know, but he was Norman. He was Norman.
I couldn't help but notice, with every respect to two guys who I am very fond of, but Craig and Norman have just slightly filled out in the face, Chris, whereas you were looking bloody good, I thought, quite frankly, for 30 years later.
Checks in the post, Paul, thank you. Well, look, it's not far be it from me. I mean, Norman is north of the big 7-0 now. I think anyone marching towards that age has every right to put on a few pounds here and there. And Craig in my weight in the old days used to oscillate. You know, I'd see myself in Series 3 or something, say, a little bit puffy there. The following series, the weight would go. So I think we both, you know, oscillate. And I was still playing football up to November. We were allowed to do that. So I get plenty of exercise. You're looking pretty slim yourself, matey.
Did you actually work out specifically to take on Mighty Light? Did you put a bit of extra hours in the gym?
When Howard Burden showed me the costume, I went on a crash diet.
Howard, of course, has been with the show since almost the beginning. Chris, lovely to have him back on this one, yeah?
Total gentleman, and as usual, brilliant to work with.
Lovely.
Nothing was ever too much, and you saw his creativity on the screen on the other night, you know? Brilliant guy.
Absolutely. Guys, we've taken an hour and more of Chris's time. I'm going to sort of wrap it there. Just want to say a really, really big thank you to you, Chris. It's fantastic to have you here. I've personally enjoyed myself immensely in the last hour. Happy Easter to you all. Talk soon, Chris.
Great fun. Take care, Paul. All the best. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Farewell all.
Stay well.